turn on their cameras or turn on their mics and be able to chat with us when we bring up their individual, if there are more questions to be had. And we are going to do our best to manage through well, I'm going to do my best to get through. We had 20 applicants. We had 20 people submit stuff. So we're going to do our best here to get through this. We have a lot of them. You'll see everybody that pops up on here, Robin and Linda and Laura. These are all the folks that introduced somebody and or had multiple applicants that they put in. And so we have 20 people to run through. I was able to do homework and do full layouts on 5 or 6 of them. And outside of that, I will do my best to take this large stack of forms that we have here from everybody and do my best to get through them all. So without further ado, let's get into it. This I thought was super funny. This is a picture that someone sent through for us to assess their client's overhead squat, and they didn't want us to know their identity, so they put some faces over it. Super, super cute. So great job on that. All right, here we go. This is going to be a little different from our regular webinars that we do, because this is truly focused on troubleshooting the client and giving you feedback. So we don't have prepared slides or decks or anything else other than what you're about to see right here. And we are just going to be troubleshooting our way through this. If the first person up here is Robin, and we are going to be looking at her 67 to 66 to 67-year-old female client. If you want to pop on here, if you're on here live with us and give us any further detail, you are welcome to. But without further ado, we're going to get into it. All right, client number 1 is Robin's no-named client. That is 76 to 77 years old, female, training goals to lose some body fat, to trim down around the waist, to get a bit stronger in the core, to increase overall physical strength. And one shoulder is weaker than the other one, has some poor knees, struggles to get up and down off the floor, hurts knees to put them on the floor directly or to put pressure directly down on them, and has really poor balance and stability. One thing I would like to point out is there was quite a bit of overlap. I think there were 4 or 5 of you that submitted individuals that cannot or struggle to get up and down off the floor. Pay particular attention to the second client. I'm going to give you the entire step-by-step process to help you build someone back from the chair down. I guess I would say, I was about to say from the floor up, but that's literally where we want to end up and then get back up from there. So we will give you the full step on that. There were 2 or 3 clients with neuropathy in the hands or the feet. I'm going to give you one on that. We've got a bunch that overlap. So if you're like, oh, this is Robin's, I'm not going to pay attention, 70% of this stuff is going to apply to almost all of you. So please just make sure you're on point here and kind of seeing all the pieces. We are going to have video demonstration as well of the suggestions as we go through. All right, so we have a decent understanding of Robin's client. As we continue through here, the Get Strong and Good Nutrition for the fat loss, that's 90% of that is going to be done through nutrition. We all know that's, that famous saying, you can't out-train your poor diet. That's going to be something that they're going to have to implement at home on their own. So we really encourage you to give them sound nutritional advice. As far as the limitations go, with the posterior chain being the target and the knees being the limitation, we have something called the Timmerman approach. I am going to reference TOA Select a lot, just so you all know what that is. I'll give you a little demo at the very end, but it's our TOA certification and our education Google search, if you will, for the best example. It's like everything that we put into this, all of our past content, all the information that you want, you can Google search for it, find it, and then be able to watch a video on it. So if you hear like Timmerman approach, what does that mean? I have a YouTube video on it that's about 20 minutes long. I've got like 2-hour-long videos on it inside Select that really go into great detail. But for the most part, what it is a posterior dominant approach where you do less knee bending. You teach people to properly hinge really, really well. Are you in the chat over there for me? You teach people to hinge really, really well. Thank you. And okay, cool. And then you focus on lateral hip strength and stability. So for the most part, we're going to reduce anything that bends their knees other than being in a bridge position. So training the posterior chain, we're going to get value for the shoulder as well. Face pulls, high pulls, lateral raises, reverse curls, hinged flies, any of those variations. These are all going to be valuable pieces to help you target from basically the occipital of the back of the head all the way down to the Achilles. The entire posterior chain is going to be super, super valuable. Now, the next thing I put in here is master the sit to stand. And you're like, well, wait a minute, that's bending the knees. We are going to use something called PAST, partially assisted stability training. And that's going to be done with bands or with support sticks. So I'm going to show you how to implement in a sit to stand variation for this particular client, get their knees really strong by deloading them, and then continue to good overload the posterior chain, get their hamstrings, their glutes, their rhomboids, their lats really, really strong. And then eventually they should be able to lose body fat through good nutrition, improve their knee pain and walk more efficiently, have better posture, and basically not struggle with the knees. Now, getting up and down off the floor, we'll talk about that with the next client when we get to that, and I'll give you the steps. But for this one in particular, these are going to be really good applicable things that you can do with them. Fat loss plus the strong posterior chain, that'll increase ability, get up and down off the floor, etc. Okay, so here is your face pull component that we're going to have here. This can be done with, this is a flywheel, an Ancor, a pulley system, bands, whatever you want to use. I like doing loaded face pulls, but I also like doing band loaded face pulls because load is always good, but the band gives you kind of a 3-piece component to it. As you pull the band towards you, you're also pulling apart and retracting. With a consistent load, you don't really get that pull apart component as far as the handles will go. So there's a little bit added value in doing the bands for your face pulls. Outside of that, I'm a big fan of consistent load. Now, when we're doing sit to stands, ones like this, like Gary's doing here in the center, where you can perform a high pull catch, hand-eye coordination to a sit to stand. You can perform this at like a quarter squat. So you put a couple Airex pads underneath to where the flexion at the knee is 45 degrees. It's hardly any flexion at all. Or you have them perform this with a band hung up around a bar in front of you, like you're going to do a pull-up, right? You're going to take the band, hook it down under your foot, stand on it, and then do pull-ups, like band-assisted pull-ups. But instead of holding the kettlebell, I hold onto the band. And as you sit down, that's going to deload that client. If that's a 60-pound band and they're 200 pounds, they're going to be about 140 pounds-ish at the bottom of their sit to stand. So that deloads their knees, allowing their knees to use less than their body weight to work through a range of motion they don't typically do and to get reps on that. So you get less inflammation, more strength gain. Slowly the band starts to reduce, like you start to let the band get lighter and lighter and lighter by changing it out. And these sit to stand components get much stronger under only their body weight. Now, if they're dieting at the same time, they are going to get lighter, hopefully, while the bands get lighter and they get stronger. This is a win-win-win all the way across, and you can start to lower the height of the box. The goal is, and I don't mean to make jokes and to enlighten this, but is to get down to their toilet height, because that's basically the function that we need on a daily basis, is to get to that height and get back up, 6 to 8 times a day or whatever it is that you're doing, right? So that's our goal, is to be able to assist them in the purest of functions, our true ADLs, if you will. Now, and accompanying that is going to be some split stance variations like this drop step lunge. Here's your partially assisted. So we have a stick, okay? So let's address that first. The first question comes in as, why don't I just hang onto the wall or put my hand against the dumbbell rack? As soon as you touch something else that is completely stabilized, your body's job to stabilize and balance in place is gone, because you've now grabbed onto something that is not going to move. Now that object anchored to your arm is what's stabilizing you. But if that object that you have gives you a point of contact, but you still have to stabilize it, we're now meeting in the middle. And this can be a band hanging from the ceiling, or it can be a hiking stick that you're having to balance on the floor. Now you'll get a good amount of assistance from this, but you're also having to do it yourself. The second part is, notice the ramp behind her. We have that ramp tilted up to about 30 to maybe 40 degrees. So as she drop steps, she's meeting the floor much higher than she typically would. And with a high plantar flexed foot, she can contact that board, do her range of motion, and then return to standing because the ramp's kind of pushing her back to where she came from. So not only does she have assistance to work this reverse step position, it's deloading via the support stick on her knees. She's training a higher angle, which cuts maybe a third of her body weight off, okay? So this is a really comfortable, very easy joint movement for her to perform on the knees. But she's also training this life function of, can I get my knees closer to the ground if I have to get up and down? This is where we're going to marry this first client right into our second one. So Linda, we're going to pop up here. And Robin, if you have questions or any further, hang on to them until I get through this one. And then I can open it up to you and to Robin and Linda both. So Linda's client is male, 75 years old, retired from law practice, cancer survivor. I didn't put everything that you put on here. Some of you wrote like 4 lines. Others wrote 2 pages back to back, sent pictures. Really great. I loved it. So I tried to give best bullet points as here I could. Struggle to get up and down off the floor, lives alone, concerned about falling, very active, walks, swims, golfs, lifts, sarcopenic due to sitting and inactivity when he was younger. Along with the law practice, there's a lot of inactivity there. Needs help to get up and down off the floor and build confidence to live alone. Okay, first thing I'll give you on this one is if you have trip hazards in your house, these are dogs, rugs, cords, carpets, tiles, wet tiles, transitions, any of those things. A transition is from carpet to tile, that little ridge or that bump that goes through the two to try to make it smooth. More people trip on those than if they just left the two kind of things like onto each other. That these are great concerns because we're foot shufflers. As sarcopenia takes a hold of us, one of the first things to start to shrink is our gait. As the gait gets smaller and smaller, our ability to dorsiflex and lift our toes up starts to reduce really quickly as well. That's why people drag their feet as they get older, because they're not activating their anterior tibs to dorsiflex or pull their toe up. So because the step is now smaller, the recruitment to lift the toe up is less. And if we practice anything less, what happens? We lose the ability to continue to maintain it. So the toes start to drag, and now we just start tripping on things constantly. So that's the first thing I would give you. The second one is, this is the progression to the floor. I don't have all of these in the video of my dad coming up here next, but a good chunk of them. Start with a sit to stand and get damn good at it. I'll tell you this too. I don't have this on the slide, but if you want to write this down, sit to stands. They will get you better at sitting down and standing up. They will improve your posture. They will improve your gait. They will improve your anterior and posterior chain. They will improve your pelvic floor, your urinary demands, your bowel tolerance, meaning your maintenance to be able to hang on to your bowel movements in between bouts of when you want to release that bowel movement and when you don't. These are all research. So I'm not just making this up. All of this connected to sit to stands. Literally all they did in these research studies was have people that have all these issues. Half of them don't do sit to stands, the other do. And they took men over 50, like a good chunk of them, 300 something of them, who had to get up and go to the bathroom 3 times a night on average, had them start doing 2 sets of 25 sit to stands in a row throughout their day, about 6 hours apart, reduced to 1 time a night. And basically it's practicing to be able to push and do 25 of those in a row. These high volume bouts basically create a Kegled effect in the male's body that women are able to practice maybe a little bit more effectively or efficiently than we are. That response occurs for them when performing the sit to stand to a fairly low height, mind you, but in a exhausted effort was able to replicate those Kegling effects that allows them to hold on to their bouts of having to go to the restroom throughout the night, let alone throughout the day. So, and this was performed in multiple different countries as well. The first one, I believe, in Asia, and then eventually India, and then there was one done in the US. So pretty cool how valuable the sit to stand is. Not just like get up and down from the toilet, but everything else kind of connected to it. All right, a staggered squat sit to stand is when you have one foot slightly staggered back behind the other one. Watch out, buddy. Hey, come on, there you go. So staggered squat, and then we're gonna do split squats. Okay. So staggered squat looks like, I think you can all see me here. My microphone's in the way. Get that out of the way. So here's my regular sit to stand, right? Here's my first one. And then the staggered, I'm gonna go off to the side, but I keep both heels here as I practice. Then I'm gonna go to a full split sit to stand, okay? Where I'm in a split squat and I'm deloading, I'm putting all my weight down on that. Yeah.
Just real quick, you guys, to hover over him and the 3 dots, select pin so you guys can see him with that.
Okay, were they not seeing me? Okay, let me pin. I'll pin. No, wait, I need a spotlight. That's what I need to do. Remove all pin, spotlight. There we go. Okay, that should take care of that. All right, so you do your sit to stands, you're staggered, then you're split, just like I showed. The height of the box will start at 18, what I just demoed on, down to a 16, which is a normal bench, down to a 14, down to a 12. That's going to be your goal on all of those. Once you get there, and well, including going to there, you want to start your past split squat, partially assisted stability training, past split squats. Use a stick, use a band. I think the sticks work better for this. Half kneeling windmills. Get down on one knee and you can stack multiple pads. See, I put lowering the pads on there next. You can put a 6 and then 4 and then a 2-inch pad on that as you work your way down. So we've got them on their knee here. Imagine I'm up on like 6 inches of padding. Buddy, go to mama. Go to mama. Yeah. So I'm down on the knee. Take both my hands, hinge, put them on the floor, and then return back up. Put them on the floor, return back up, okay? If we don't have really good dexterity or mobility, here are the AirX pads. We put those down. Now I'm quite a bit higher, right? And I can practice just going down to my fingertips and practicing this guy. Along with my stability sticks, performing my split squats, along with my sit to stands. All of these are going to start to build our strength deeper and deeper and get us into a position where we can work to the floor on one 2-inch AirX pad with the support sticks. And then eventually, if you can do a 1-inch AirX pad onto the floor with no sticks, you've got it. That's when we go, okay, they've got all the pieces. They can hinge, put their hands on the floor. They can get to their knee. They can put both hands on their knee, lean forward and push what the 2-inch AirX pad gives them and drive themselves up off the ground. It won't be pretty, but they can do it. And we have worked this progression hundreds of times with people and got them all. We had one lady that had both of her hips replaced. She was 80 something years old. And I think her name was Carol. She wore the same shirt in every single day that we saw her. And we never got her to the floor and back up on a knee. We got her up and down off the floor. She could do like the inchworm where she just walked her hands back up with her butt in the air. So she could get up and down, but she couldn't go down to her knee. One hip was just so weak and so frail, we just couldn't do it. Other than that, everyone else has done this. So when you see master the sit to stand, that's what I'm talking about. Like all those other things, great value. The sit to stand to really low depths where they can do this with their own body weight, super, super valuable. And then of course, training your arms, your biceps, triceps, etc., to help you with those pushes when you get up and down. Now I'm going to let this one run. This is a whole complex of my dad. This was over about an 8-month period. We are starting the end of the pandemic. I am in disguise here and all this to help him get up and down out of that bed. We was able to walk maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. Started coming over for workouts and we started to see the AirX pad underneath him there. We started all of our sit to stands. All of these are different. He has a vest on in this one. He's working a gripper while he's doing it too. We've got an uneven loaded weight. He's got like a 6.5 or 7.5 in one hand and a 8 kilo in the other. We've got this is a little monk squat where he's holding it right at his belly button. Okay, as he comes up. This is a belt squat. We've got it anchored to an Ancor down below him there. That's locked in on the bench, okay? Just a traditional kettlebell holding low, sit to stand. Again with the belt, okay? Able to push off the knees a little bit. We've got that load pretty heavy, about 80 pounds. Now we've got a band on there for some abductors. Now we've got a lower, look, he's down to a 14-inch box right here, okay? 12-inch plus the 2. These are partials. These are great. These burn so much. Like just the initial, I'm gonna go and then right back down. I'm gonna go and then right back down. Switching hands. As he comes out of here, again, down, this is an 18-incher, so he's working depth, right? One hand and then the other. These are heavier loads, working his way through these ones. Okay, and then this was just days, unfortunately, before he passed, but this was, well, maybe a couple of weeks before he passed. This was at Easter. And we were kind of jokingly, like, I bet you could do 50 of these, Dad. And he knocked out like 10 of them and had such a good smile and laugh at the end of it. So those sit to stand variations, all of those variations, there's 50 of them, if not more. There's a lot of good stuff there for you to take from it. And Dad's, I always like putting him in here just because he's like our greatest success story by far. This is Elaine. Elaine has practiced and could not even get close to getting off the floor. And now she can do it in under 3 seconds. Like, she just crushes it. She's elevated. She's up on a 2-inch butcher block here with a 4-kilo kettlebell, drop stepping, partially assisted, but look at the depth. Look how deep she's getting. Like, she's about an inch below that board. She's almost touching the floor. So without the stick, without the weight, she's got an overload, right? So without the stick and out the weight, just to get up with her own body, no problem. Like, she's able to do that. She's like, I can go lower than normal. I can have extra weight, but I get a little bit of a cheat to help me. Well, there's the overload. That's my overload stimulus. And this is where we're like, well, if we can't do it with body weight at all, we shouldn't practice it. That's not accurate. Body weight is not easy to manipulate. I'd rather give you assistance and get you better at doing the ranges that you actually need to do. Okay, this one here, just a half kneeling windmill. This is just the loaded, not this part, but those first couple. These are the pieces we need right here, where you're just taking load from this hinge position and pulling with the rear hamstring and the erector and the low spine to pull you back up into that half kneeling position. And we just get to practice that hip displacement. Okay, these are all really, really good drills to focus on here to assist your clients to get down and up from the floor. All right, Robin, I don't know if you are on here. No, Robin? Okay, neither one here. All right. If you do have questions, feel free to wait till the end there. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? Yeah, feel free to
On those two.
open up and we'll go from there. You have the ability. You guys got me? Oh, there we go. Now we're back. Can you hear me?
Got you back.
Everybody got it? Okay. That was weird. That happened earlier with Todd, too. I'll try not to touch anything. Okay. 80 pounds lost with Ozempic, 5'9", now 165 pounds. Wants to gain muscle and increase longevity, has excessive thoracic kyphosis. A lot of people had this on there, so let's pay attention, particularly on how if we're going to address this, and then how we will if we're going to do it. Scapular winging when they're in a plank and or push-up position excessively. Pelvic tilt when in the hinge position. That typical old man, Mr. Burns posture, the forward fold, the forward head, and the tucked butt all kind of come together all in one here. Everybody just check your mic for me real quick and make sure your mics are off, please. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so things to focus on here. Number one, Ozempic and muscle gain could be a challenging issue. I am not sold on Ozempic. I think there are a lot of concerns here for people to be taking them. This is my opinion. I am not a doctor. I research these things a lot, and I've seen great arguments as to why this is a good thing, and I've seen a lot of arguments to why it's maybe not such a good thing. I have an opinion on if I think it's good or bad. I'm going to keep that to myself, but if people can naturally improve their health without utilizing this, can increase their muscle mass and reduce their body fat by doing that, I strongly encourage you to do that prior to taking this step. So I think that gives you a pretty good idea of what my answer would be. The reason I don't say this is one of the most publicly sued companies out there, meaning they sue everyone that talks about them. So that's why I'm having the stand that I have. But I think you could definitely have some challenges with what now the medication is going to do to the body, and then your goal to try to build muscle mass at the same time can really be a challenge, okay? But I would encourage to train 2 to 3 times a week, and we're going to try to push a 7 or an 8 RPE, or you could look at it as a 4 to a 6 reps in reserve. This is a 65-year-old male. He is right on the edge of kyphotically, is this a person we can save or not? And I don't mean like we're done with them, push them off the diving board. Like, it's not that kind of we're done with it. It's you look at somebody with kyphosis and there's a age break between 65 and 70, 65 and 67, that if they don't see like drastic change and improvement, they're not going to get better. It's just not enough time. They've had 67 years of rounding kyphotic loss to gravity and not enough muscle mass to really build and like actually manipulate their body back the other direction. It doesn't mean that we can't try. It just means that it's going to behoove you to work on their bone density and their muscle mass via heavier lifting than try to correctively exercise them out of that kyphotic position. So he's right on the edge of this. Yes.
There was a question earlier, but kind of along those same lines is how do we get our clients to have their torsos parallel to the floor when doing sit to stands? Clients to have their torsos parallel to the floor.
How do we get them to get their torsos parallel to the floor?
I think she means like they are parallel.
Oh, if they are
Yes.
tilting forward?
Yes.
Well, a 45 to 55 degree angle tilt in isn't bad. That's what the typical person does when they hinge forward to put their hands on their thighs and then stand up, again, typically from a low squat or a toilet position. So that's not terrible. We don't have to perform sit to stands vertically. That's actually not advised. It's all quadricep when you do that. So we do want them tilted forward, but we don't want them flat either. So a couple of ways around that is to give them a weight. It doesn't have to be heavy, just something to hold at the goblet. If they're over tilting forward
They are parallel, trying to get their torso a bit more forward, so maybe more vertical. How do you get them more vertical? They
get them more vertical?
They are parallel.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, holding something at the chest, you would think like, oh, that's going to pull them forward. Quite the opposite. If they're literally pulling it into their chest, they will overcorrect to a more vertical posture because they know the weight is going to tip them forward. And when you're continually cueing that, and take a recording of it and show them. That's where most people, when you're like, guys, we go over this constantly. Why are you not getting it? Not everyone speaks fitness. We all do. We all get anterior, posterior, forward tilt, backwards tilt, dorsiflexion, plantar. We all get that. They just hear French. Like they just hear some other language. So when you show them, like this is how far forward you're tilting, they're like, oh, I had no idea. Their body awareness is garbage. Like most of them are terrible. I've had clients where I literally have to pick up their foot and move it to where I need them to be, right? And so this is a training piece that we need to get good at, is not just cueing it, but like physically showing them, and then you can demonstrate it and be like, mirror me, and sit to stand right next to them and be like, here's you, and then fold all the way over, right? And then go, here's me, and have them mirror you, and then sit to stand together while holding something. Even deloading where they hold onto the band can also help, even though it's going to be easier. It'll keep them more upright. So these are just some basic little things you can do to try to keep them there. But most of the time, if they just see it, they'll correct out of that.
Sorry to derail you.
Kyphosis, thank you. So we're right on the line of recovery for this. Thank you. I wouldn't even know where to go back at. So retraction, anything and everything. And retractions, let me remind everybody on this with the retraction, what a retraction looks like. It's not, this is old school, okay? Old school was the circles when you're doing your shrugs, right? Circles do damage. Retraction is not straight back and it's not up, it's up and back, okay? So if I'm doing a hinge with a retraction, if I'm doing a curl with a retraction, if I'm doing a high pull with a retraction, everything is going up and back. Like if there were a giant above you and they grabbed you by your traps and they were picking you up, you'd be like, oh, you'd get pulled up, right? By your traps. That's what we're looking for. Is that, huh?
Someone should record him because your movement is insane.
My
like
movement
good
is
insane.
Oh,
like your
good.
movement, that was impressive.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe. So retraction rows, okay, up and back, retraction rows, retraction hinges, retraction curls. You can retract almost everything that you do. And the value to that is, number one, they're going to get some better traps. Yes. Number two is the rhomboids are going to start slowly migrating back together again. And every time you retract, what happens to your sternum? It lifts up and establishes a platform, which is the exact opposite of what they currently are when they're kyphotically curved. So we are just going against gravity constantly with this. But our advantage is we have load in hand, and we're hoping that those up retractabilities are going to like quickly, contagiously add on and correct us faster than gravity has worn on us over, 6 decades. So the neck Strength component to this is a big one too. There are different neck drills. Again, getting into a little occupational therapy / PT is withdrawing the chin in and back. In and back. You want to like, you can't see it because of my beard, but you want to make like the fattest fat face that you can. Like, oh, right? Like suck it in. Keeg, you do a good one. Do you want to come and show everybody? That's your demo. You get to do, you have multiple chins left. Just kidding. She's beautiful always. Up and back with the chin. Okay. So that's one we can do is work on retractions. You can do that while you're doing your Vel drill, which I'll show you as well. This is coming up later, but the Vel drill is our standing, palms up, lean forward, big heavy toe, 5 seconds and return. Now let's add the chin in with it. I tuck my chin and pull my head back while I do my Vel drill and return. It's a slight little tuck and a retraction. That one, along with you're laying face down on your bed and you're doing yes, nose, right? So there's our yeses. And then you're doing nose from side to side. And then you're doing, what'd you say? What'd you say? Ear to ear, right? Ear to ear on that. All three of those, yeses, nose, and what'd you says, right? Ear to ear on each side, all while face down, okay? Prone position on the floor or on the bed, so your head can hang off the edge. All of that is posterior occipital retracting movements that's going to slowly help them pull their head back because their head's not forward just because of gravity. The kyphotic curve has curved, but their cervical spine has curved over as well. So now you're going to try to rein all those muscles in and like tighten them back up in here into a better posture. This is years of practice. This is not going to happen with like 6 weeks of practice and then we'll be fixed. So I'm saying like we may never fix this person, but it can get better, right? They may drastically improve. They may not improve at all. But either way, the posterior chain and the retractability, all this is going to do a couple of things. It's going to get their posture and their backside much stronger, taking a lot of the pressure off their head and their neck. I bet they will sleep better, stand more comfortably, lay down more comfortably. That ultimately helps with the sleep and the recovery. But all of this upper posterior chain work drastically affects the lower posterior chain. And as they start to loosen with the hamstrings through better mobility and just general mobility warm-ups and such, better hinging mechanics, etc., the hamstrings start to loosen and all the upper body starts to retract. Their posture starts to improve because now their pelvis can kind of float and move a little more effectively as well. So looser hamstrings, retracted tight shoulder blades, and we will say they're overly stretched so far, like shoot for overly tight, and then learn to retract the head and the neck. All of this will give some pretty good opportunity to improve the posture on this one, okay? Why would you say that? And pullovers are one of my absolute favorite exercises for kyphotic clients to perform. First thing you go is, okay, laying them supine on their back. They can't even get their head down on the bench. Grab a couple of towels or an Airex pad and put it underneath there. The nice part about the towels is you can count how many you're putting under there. So if there's 3 right now and they continue to improve, eventually you'll only need 2. And then you only need 1. And eventually they should just be able to lay down on the bench, okay? But to start, if they can't even lay on the bench, just do a band rear-facing pullover. So I got a couple of these. You all know I work with FitBody now. So I got George and I have Liz and a couple of our FitBody Forever coaches and our FitBody Bootcamp coaches to help with some of the demos here. This is one of my favorites. This is the pullover, but you're doing it from a standing position and the band is passively allowing you to stretch into a better posture, okay, into a better range of motion. So you start with a band down in front, walk forward, and then get that good stretch, neutral grip, range of motion. This will ultimately lead us to the floor. We're holding a dumbbell with this neutral grip is where you want to start. A kettlebell with a pronated or a hammer grip will work as well, but this is a really good range for us to start in here for the first part. And then all of these retracted row kind of angles, you can see Elaine a little more upright because she's a little more kyphotic. But as we get a little heavier, we can recline a little more. You'll see Kendra all the way on the left here. As she rows in, she's trying to lift her chest up at the very last second to kind of meet. So we have a really good healthy back all the way on the left, non-kyphotic. We have a fully kyphotic curve all the way on the right. And then our happy medium Gina in the middle, headed that way, 39, 40-year-old osteoporosis client, headed that way, but very recoverable, okay? So these are the progressive exercises and steps that we can help with that client. That was Laura's client to overcome some of the issues that they are addressing. Laura, are you on here? Do we have a Laura? No Laura? Okay. All right. Anybody else? Questions on that one?
Give me a second to type. Oh, Sherry's on here.
All right. Sherry looks like it's going to be our first one that's on here with us. So Sherry, if you have questions as we go through, let me know. Do you need to go out? Okay. I know you're going to start whimpering here in a second. All right. Go get him, champ. Okie dokie. Next one. This is Sherry. Sherry's client is, let's see, female client, 80 years of age.
Question.
Yeah.
Have you been able to reverse osteoporosis maybe? If so, where? I.e. pain, hip, etc. Have you been able to reverse osteo? Question mark.
Turn your mic on.
Have you, spine. Have you been able to reverse osteo? If so, where? Spine.
Osteoporosis of the spine.
Is that what you're talking about, Pat?
If that's the case, yes, 60, 70-year-olds can improve their bone density scores in there, especially if they do, there is a Liftmore study, and there's one other one, the last name, it's like Hamilton or Hampton, something like that. I have it in my, go back and look at the menopause webinar. It's on our YouTube page. If you go back and look at that, I talk about both of those studies and how they incorporate a jump training component, jump chin-ups, and then rebounding on the floor, along with heavy deadlifts, heavy RDLs, heavy bench press, heavy overhead press. If you do those 5 components plus the rebounding, there's really good return for bone density improvement. That also had pelvic floor returns. It had postural components, all the way through cognition improvements on all of that. But their bone densities either did not get worse or improved. And the cool part with the Liftmore studies, on average, people got 1 centimeter taller and had more visible neck and trap outlines. And that was not, they weren't physically getting taller. They were just not being so rounded forward because of their poor posture. Their bodies were becoming more erect.
Are you okay with jumping with osteoporosis?
Yes, you want very soft impact jumping if you're going to jump. And you'd like to do it with a bar, so when you jump up, you can land softer and gradually build up the amount of impact you put back on the floor. Jumping can be extremely damaging if done too much, too quick, too aggressively. But jumping has great returns if you progress it in correctly. One person read this study that I read about online, read that study and was like, oh, I'm supposed to do jump training. That'll help my bone density. Went out, bought a jump rope and started doing 10 minutes a day, a jump rope. Got shin splints so bad in her shins that they had external bruising from the bone coming apart in her shins. Achilles tendonitis, bursitis, plantar fasciitis, like you name it. All these issues came about. But if she would have done like calf pumps, walking calf pumps for a week, and then done little pop squats for a week, 3 sets of 10 pop squats, and then did 30 seconds of jump rope, and then built up to 10 minutes over a year, then that would have been fine for a 70-year-old client who's never exercised in her life. That would have been fine. So jumping, good. Progressive jumping, even better. Don't jump in, pun intended, don't jump into that too quickly, or else you'll have some really negative returns, okay? All right, 3 years of training, 2 times a week in home, is willing to buy, I remember this, is willing to buy gear like a TRX, or has a TRX, has a universal. I read all 20 of them, so remembering each one individually here, there were certain pieces I remembered. She has a TRX, she has like kind of a universal training machine in-house, had a right side mastectomy, left shoulder rotator cuff issues, and a right hip replacement, if I'm remembering correctly, arthritis in the hands and the feet. Can't do too many sit to stands due to ankle pain. That's where she wears some type of plastic support brace to assist with that. Scapular winging in the plank and the push-up position, and pelvic tilt when hinging, rounded, butts tucked underneath. Oops, nope, that's a carryover from the last one. Sorry, ignore that. Ignore those last 2. All right.
Left hip.
Left hip? Okay, left hip.
And not a plastic, elastic sleeve.
Oh, it's an elastic sleeve, like a pull-up one. Okay. I was thinking like Forrest Gump style. Okay. Let me do this really quick. Pause. Keeg, will you entertain everyone for a moment while I do this?
I don't think you guys want
Could
me to
you sing and dance maybe? Tell them your favorite joke.
No, but on the whole rebounding thing, Rob started laughing because I read this thing the other day that was talking about rebounding, and we all know that it's good for lots of different things, and including lymph flow, you know, like getting all that movement going through their immune system, all that good happy jazz. But this also said that it would help tighten your skin and reduce the look of cellulite. So I have been
Anti-cellulite rebounding.
I have been bounding around the house in little tiny bursts.
She comes out here and just time me, and she just jump
For a
in
minute
place.
at a
It's super
time.
cute. Okay, first things first. So Sherry gave me some info on the other stuff that she's been doing. First thing, never do another burpee with this client ever again. Like that's right out of the gate. Even if she likes them, I would cut it, okay? I would get rid of that. I would replace it with calf pumps, squats to a calf pump, squat to a pop squat, eventually to the point where she could do like a sit to stand squat jump, sit to stand squat jump. Again, gradually building up to that, but just start with like a sit to stand up to a calf pump, up to the tiptoes and back down. That forward folding flexion, forward down, jumping the feet out or stepping the feet out and back in is just going to tear up her back. We already have shoulder issues. We already have hip issues. We already have arthritis issues. The burpee is extremely inflammatory to all of that. So I would remove that one right from the get-go and replace that with really good sit to stand variations. But right away you're like, but you can't do too many of those. So I'm going to talk to you about how we're going to deload that. The deloaded version of this, not using a TRX, using a band, is going to be number one good to go. Would you take the bands and just hook it on the front hook if you can reach that for me, and toss one of those yellow boxes right in front of it, honey? Thank you, babe. And I'll demo that in just a second for you. The Vel foot drill, that's the one I just demoed a second ago where we're standing up straight and then you lean forward. You don't want your heels to come off the floor, but you want to dig your big toe into the floor like as hard as you possibly can. Suitcase carries, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different versions of these that are really slow and specific with foot placement, is going to do a ton. The value of the suitcase versus the farmer, it is 3-to-1 better. Even if you're like, I'm going to carry a 20 in each hand, that's 40 total pounds. Where if you carry a 30 in one hand and nothing in the other, the return you get from the suitcase is 3 times greater in terms of not overly flexing to the weight, overly compensating away from the weight, and then the lowering of the center of the mass and the recruiting of more muscular to stay vertical allows for a more grounded gait that improves the walking length. And you'll see it with my dad here. I have a video of him like walking without a weight and then walking with the weight. And you're like, wow, it looks way better with the load because he's got something to activate his muscles against. And when you're doing a farmer carry, basically the weights cancel each other out. As long as your grip strength and your traps are strong, you can just kind of hold on to it and then walk about, right? So Vel foot drill, the suitcase carry, and then having some specific like foot placements when doing the carries. I'll demo these in a moment. Really helpful. The deloaded split squat, deloaded squat, deloaded step up, deloaded sit to stand is going to be money. I would work on these every single time you're in there. This could be done with like 3 sets of 8. It doesn't have to be a ton of volume, but do them really effectively to the best of her ability, to the best depth that she can do with the lightest band, but start really heavy to make sure you're giving her a chance to like get introduced to this and then slowly start to reduce the band as you go. The ramp is going to be a really big component for you here too, and I'll show you either that or heel wedges might help as well. And then use support sticks as often as possible. That's going to help quite a bit. Split squats, step ups, kickstands, all of that, okay? All right, so let's do a couple video demos and then I'll show you a few demos here in-house as well. All right, our first one here, this is the Vel drill. Very top right. What we're doing is we're standing tall, palms forward. That's your anatomical position. They lean, heels stay on the ground, toes dig, 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 dig. 5 seconds, and then they pull with their hamstrings back to the standing position. What we don't want them to do is fold at the hip. See how Joyce has got a little bit of hip? Kenton does it great, right in the middle. It's like that Smooth Criminal Michael Jackson video, right? Like you're starting to tilt in there. That's exactly what we want. Dig into those heels, or dig into the toes, keep the heels down, and then pull with your hamstrings, okay, to kind of get you back up into that vertical position. Oops. Whoa. Admit those guys. And here we go. All right, now we're back. All right, our next one is the suitcase carry. These are transfer sit to stand suitcase carries. So the goal is, and what they were instructed to do, is to put the weight down on the floor before they turn around to sit down. But once we get going, they're just like, fuck it, and they just go. So ideally, we don't want them like turning around with the weight in their hand, but these guys have all practiced this quite a bit. They come, they sit down, they stand up, they switch hands, they go down around a cone, turn around and come back. We're practicing a depth pickup off the floor. That's where they're switching their hands at, is this forward hinge, forward tilt. They can set it on the ground or just switch. Kenton in the middle has a really tight, surgically repaired lower back, so I don't have him go to the floor all that often. He just has to do the sit down. And then they work on their gait, going out around the cone and back or to the cone and back. They can switch hands. We'll kind of call it for them as they go. Now, a next level on this is we give them a certain amount of work to be done in time. So you can see they're like ready to go. They're going to do their 5 sit-to-stands. And then on the 5th one, they have to carry all the way down. They'll go around. This is like a timed up and go. They go down around the cone, right? And then all the way back. They're going to switch hands again and do another 5 sit-to-stands. And then they'll go the other way around the cone. So we're practicing sit-to-stand variations in a little bit of an urgency because the timer's running. What does the timer give them? All it does is deliver time-tested simulation urgency. I don't really care what the number is. You can write it down and report it and say, let's beat your time from last time. I don't care. What we want them to work on is establishing and winning and beating a goal, and then going down, working on their heel-to-toe contacts, working through those strides like they're gliding along. Okay, and then our last one here, these are different foot contact drills that we do where they have to forward step, push off their heel and return, 5 on each leg, and then they will go lateral, step out, push off, 5 on each leg, and then they'll do drop step or reverse lunges, 5 on each leg. Now we've got Joyce over here right next to the countertop, so if she starts to lose balance, she can grab on. The countertop's right outside of the screen there. And then Frank and Kenton, both in the middle, do a really good job with this. There's Frank all the way at the far end down there has Parkinson's disease and is in kind of that, first to second stage of this as he's going through, has medication and has good days and bad days. And what we're noticing, I had a couple people highlighted in here that just submitted. Like one of you submitted literally 2 minutes before we came on. So apologies, we won't get to you today. But some of you had submissions like last night or this morning, and a couple asked about Parkinson's. I'm going to showcase how not only the sit-to-stand, but a couple other exercises at the end can be really valuable for Parkinson's disease in different bouts in which you can do this, okay? All right, so there's some really good examples for you to do with those. And then the band sit-to-stand, I'm going to get you a high anchor, hold on to a band or multiple bands. Like I'm going to hold on to all of them. And when I sit down, my 255 pounds here is pretty light. Like I'm almost floating, okay? And if I pull down harder, it's already lifted me up off the bench. The band is kind of winning and assisting me in getting back up. So this client gets aggravated if we do too many sit-to-stands and maybe her knees don't stay in the best alignment. If I'm going to deload and take like half my body weight away, I can work on getting all the way down, keeping my knees in good alignment and work with half my body weight, but through this deep full range of motion that's really going to be beneficial. That lighter, 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 lighter as you work. This could be months, right, of practice. But this is always a steered and an adjusting tension. Where if you just hook up the TRX and grab on with your hands and sit down and stand up, you have no idea how much support you're getting. Where are we? We're down here. You have no idea how much support we're getting. You have no idea if they're progressing or regressing, if she's using less arm support or more. And that TRX connected straight to the rack is the exact same thing as her just grabbing onto the rack with her arms and pulling herself up. So it's not past partially assisted, it's fully assisted, right? So that's where the band is pliable. The sticks have to be balanced, and there's still some measurable component to that. The bands can get lighter as we go down. You can use more or less, right, by adjusting your hand placement and really give yourself a solid challenge on this, or make it a little easier if she's having an off day. Question?
So yeah, no, just a comment from Sherry. She's saying, well, she loves them and loves this, and thank you. But that the last one would be impossible due to ankle pain that's elicited with a little impact in a split stance. So obviously, I'm assuming that this client walks in, so there is a split stance of some sort of a better. So this one up here with the gait set she did at the beginning.
Gotcha.
Yeah, do you think that there's a way around that that would help her with the ankle pain that she gets maybe with that longer gait? I'm assuming that's what that means because she
Does
walks.
so Sherry, you can turn on your mic here so we can chat. Does this client do they walk okay? Does she walk okay?
I am starting to notice. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I got you.
Okay. I'm starting to notice that there are some changes in her gait patterning, and it is, of course, due to this pain that she is experiencing. And I've called it to her attention, and she's not liking it that she's making these compensations. And yet, she used to do beautiful lunge walking,
Mm,
loaded. I mean, and with rotation, she started out with me doing just she really worked up to that and did a beautiful job. But just in the last handful of months, she's developed this horrible pain, and I insisted that she go to a sports medicine person, and they said it
very
was
good.
arthritis. So there's really nothing else going on that could be corrected.
Mm,
I encourage her to wear a light elastic brace. It seems to help
okay.
some of the pain.
Okay. So that's good. Thank you for that explanation. That gives me some more information to work with. So the elastic compression, while with movement, really, really good, and that's a winner. If she's wearing that when she's at home doing nothing, that's causing more harm than good. So she should only wear that compression sleeve when she's doing long bouts of movement or walking,
That's
meaning at the
exactly what we're
gym.
doing.
Okay,
Yes.
good. But she's not like chilling at home watching, Matlock for 4 hours with it on, right?
No, not at all. She
Okay,
doesn't like
good.
it. She'll only wear it when
Perfect.
I ask her, when I remind her before
Perfect.
we start.
Okay, that's really good. The next part of this is, and you can find this on our YouTube as well. We have, and there's some really in-depth ones on Select about the arthritic grace period. And this individual at 80 years, this has been a big grace period for her, but introducing new drills like this, the VEL, right, where she's leaning and returning, the suitcase carries with whatever bout or gait length that she can handle. And then once you kind of find like, okay, this routine that we can do right now, it works for her. It's a little uncomfortable, but then just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. The body will adapt. And that's the grace period. If this is only arthritis, if that's truly what it is, the body will adapt. 94% of people that just said, I'm just going to keep doing this, my body will adapt. My body will grow calluses when I grab rough things. This is the ankle's ability to grow a callus. It will adapt to this demand. Carrying weight, walking weight, foot pressure, forward and back, up and down, whatever it is that you can create with her, find one that's like a slight stimulus and just keep doing it every single day. And just be like, we can't miss any days. You got to keep doing it. And if she gets a flare up, we back off, but we don't stop. And if she gets through 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it takes, eventually the body would be like, this is what we do now. We had better adapt. It's not just going to keep getting worse. The body will adapt arthritically. And eventually this won't be an issue if it truly is arthritis. If there's something else, then this will just flare up and get worse and worse, and she needs to go back to the doctor. But if it's just arthritis, you can work through this. We don't want to work around it, because as soon as you work around this and start to limit it, her gait gets smaller, her feet get weaker, she's a fall waiting to happen. And it sounds like she probably already is a little bit with the reductions that you've had to do. So I would just continue to do the absolute best that you can and push the limits with her here in whatever range she can handle, and then just add a little extra load on those ranges. And on the ones that the sit to stands and the other things that you can do, the more vertical, the less knee the less ankle flexion she's going to have. So put her like straight up and down, give her a big band, and let her lift her toes off the floor and just push down on the heels and try to just be like pogo stick vertical when she goes up and down. That's as minimal ankle flexion and activity as you can on a sit to stand. But the value of that sit to stand gives great return back to this. Like it'll train everything all the way down to the foot and back. And eventually she'll stop having to be so vertical and so concerned with it. She'll just be able to keep going. And this is just master the basics. Then we load the basics, and then we increase the difficulty of the basics. We don't have to do anything else too fancy. I think this will be a really good progression. It's just going to take time and consistency. And with that, unfortunately, comes some discomfort. But if she can manage it, keep going. All right. Any other follow-ups on that one? I've got one more charted, and this is a quick one. And then I was just going to read through and just kind of give some general ideas to everybody else. I'll give you a highlight of each one and then just give you some suggestions. I scheduled this for 90 minutes. I think most of us got online and saw 60, which you got to go in 5 minutes, no problem. But I'm going to keep rolling here for a little bit and just try to give at least all of you something to work on if we didn't cover. And then if somebody would remind me about the Parkinson's in just a second, I would like to go over that one too. What's that? Yes.
So I just want to make a comment while you're going to the next one,
Yeah.
that Beverly shared that she has an 80-year-old female client whose osteoporosis improved after 12 months of lifting weights.
Booyah, there you go.
Now that
That's
made me
awesome.
happy.
Yeah, the grace periods are really, like I was saying, it could be 2 to 12 weeks until you start to see a change, but then that whole period can get, and we've had people that had arthritis in their hands and their wrists, and after 2 years, like they don't even talk about it anymore, or excuse me, osteoporosis, yeah. And yeah, you can have lots of improvements from this for sure. You just got to get through that grace period. All right, here we go. This is Julia. Julia sent in 75. Julia, yes? Good? Okay. Julia, 75-year-old male client, 5'10", 245 pounds, BMI 34, 43% body fat, both hips and knees replaced. Are you describing me? Both shoulders and rotator cuffs repaired, poor balance, early dementia, plays golf 2 times a week, nothing else, gets bored easily, wants to improve strength and stamina. All right, diet, baby. This is the big one right out of the gate. And this was the picture, everybody, I showed at the very beginning, the picture with the little face. And Julia, was that your emoji? Is that your face that goes over it? I'm guessing so. All right, dropping body fat by 45 pounds would be really good. So diet's going to be a huge goal for him. Ideally, and we do say this ideally, since the replacement of the hips and the knees, they should function, quote unquote, without pain. But because of so many years of being asymmetrical, pain obstructed is what I'll say, manipulating, whoa, what is that? Somebody just drew all over Mary Jo just drew all over my page. How did that happen? That was something. How do we undo that? Yikes. I think it said Mary Jo. Mary Jo, if you're on here and you can erase those, that would be great. I don't even know how that happened. That was the craziest thing. Do you all see that? Yeah. Those red lines? Okay. Yeah. She's like, I don't like this shit. We have 3 minutes, wrap it up. All right. All right. Ideally, we should be fixed here. The hips should be fixed. The knees should be fixed, and they should be able to move efficiently. What's happened is we've got an imbalance and we've got a neuromuscular pattern that has now been established that's autonomic. It's stuck in his brain that my body's supposed to move like this because I have for so long due to the pain, and we've got to re-engineer it. So when I look at that picture, if both of those knees and both of those hips have been replaced, he shouldn't squat like that. He should be able to squat right down the pipe evenly with everything feeling good. But what's pulling him out of position are tight muscles, underdeveloped muscles, overdeveloped muscles, etc. So we can fix it, but he's got to want to, which is the hard part. And at 75, and he just likes to golf and he gets bored, and this could be a tough one. I'm going to say mini band everything you can. Mini bands above the knee to do sit to stands, to do lateral slides, proper hinges, bridges. Get mini bands on above the knee and let him do as much stuff as he can. He could literally put the bands on above his knee and do standing rows, do cable chest press, chest flies, bicep curls. Just put the band on and make his butt burn. You want his glutes to start getting strong and his knees to start pushing outward so he can get away from this massively valgus collapsed right knee and this left shifty hip. We're over hypermobile and under muscularly developed on either side. So that's going to help right from the get-go. Deloaded hinges, like I was just showing back there, holding onto the band to do the sit to stand. Just do a hinge from there. Hold on to that band, hinge into the band where your head ends up going right between the gap, okay? Sorry for the butt shot, but you guys will get the picture here, what I'm trying to do. So you hold on to your band, right down the middle, hinge, head goes right between the band, and return. And your goal, you can throw a camera on him and put it right in front of him, like right where the rack is, and let him watch as he's going down. And if his hips are like kinking, you can start to correct and be like, oh, it's supposed to be here. And he can just kind of shift his way with support lighter than usual and put himself into good alignments and practice better positions, okay? That could be a good way. There we go. It's gone.
I was just saying, go up to more real quick.
Up to more?
Yeah. And then go disable annotations from others.
Okay. We got some stuff to fix on this side. Okay. This has been an experience doing it in a meeting like this. This has been very different. All right. Thank you. So there's your deloaded hinge. Work your range of motion. Pivot point presses will help with the shoulders. If you don't know what that is, check our website. You'll see that. Pullovers like we showed, face pulls, hinge flies, etc. For creativity but for consistency, I would create 8 different workouts that cover everything you want and then cycle through them. So he's doing something different every day, but it's all stuff that you need. So you should have some variation of mini band something. You should have some kind of low and high row, some kind of pivot point or overhead pressing component, something where he's going to start splitting his feet, something where he's going to sit to stand. Like get your, we have our 6 movements we like to do in every workout, and then just get different versions of each of those, make your 8 workouts and just cycle them through. Because where the boredom comes in is by doing the same thing all the time. And if you're just like, well, I get to do sit to stands again, you're like, yeah, but this time we have a band on. This time it's lower. This time your eyes are closed. This time you hold onto a band. This time the band's hooked onto your hips while you stand up. So you have to like pull the band up as you come up. This time I'm going to throw you a medicine ball every time you stand up. This time you're going to close one eye and I'm going to throw you a Nerf football so you don't hurt them, right? Like something different like that every time. Yar, jar, pirate style. But the point is it's still a sit to stand, right? And that's what you want to get through and make it fun. Like, especially, if he's a golfer, there's some competitive nature there. Like, how many sit to stands can we do where you throw me this volleyball back and forth and we don't screw up, right? Nobody drops it. How many lacrosse ball dribbles can he do standing on one foot without screwing up? Like, start to set little competitive components to this that'll make it a little bit more gamey. I think could really help quite a bit. Here's the pivot point. Right? You have a suspension strap. This could be a TRX with a loop strap and a carabiner. Loop it through the kettlebell or a dumbbell, lean and reach. All 3 of these individuals could not put their arm over their head. All 3 of them can. One, Joyce in the middle, broke her arm when she fell. Her doctor said, you'll never put your hand over your forehead again. And look at her. And that was her left arm. Look at that arm getting all the way up there. Okay, this is how we rebuilt her from this. Earlier, I talked about elevating your heels and being vertical on your sit to stands. Okay, this is a very good way to do it here. But notice Linda is sub-parallel, like she's getting way down here. But being up on the ramp here puts a lot of pressure on the patella in a good way, gives you some really good range of motion, good alignment, good depth, right? We've got the vest on, so we're not really thinking about the weight, but this elevated position, kind of heel dominant, quad dominant movement pattern here will help him with his legs getting stronger. And then here's your mini band around the knees. Yep, doing look how deep George gets down there. Good flexibility. He is. That's what a professional ballerina for reals the kind of flexibility this dude's got. He's a stud muffin. All right. So to wrap up that one, before I do this last, I had one more little screen here for Julia. Any questions or comments, Julia? I believe you were on here.
No, thank you. That was great.
All good? Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you submitting. Thank you for the pictures. Yeah, go ahead.
You're welcome.
No, you are muted. Yeah. Now go ahead.
We do have a question from Pat. She said, I thought we tried to get folks out of quad dominance. Don't we want to activate hamstrings more? Well, this is a hot topic.
This is a hot topic. So, yeah, great question. Great question. Quad dominance means a couple of different things. Quad dominance can mean hip flexor dominance, or it can mean actual quad extension, knee extension dominant. Most people are hip flexor dominant, not quad dominant. And that's why when they go to stand up, their knees will bow in and out, or they'll shake, or they can't establish certain depths, is because number one, they're not flexible enough to get into a forward tilt, enough to stretch their glutes to help them when they get up and down. And number two, their quads are not strong enough. So if we need to specifically target the quads, this is where elevating the heels actually works in our favor. Not everybody needs this, but those that do could really greatly benefit from it if you don't have a quad extension machine or, something along those lines. You can't do pistol squats. We can't do split squats. We can elevate the heels and really target the quads. Now with the tight hip flexor component, that's where you're going to see from excessive walking, hiking, etc., where the hip flexors are going to be so tight that they're going to be anterior dominant then at that point, and their butt kind of gets pulled underneath them. That's the iliopsoas, the iliacus, the rectus femoris, all of those that are going to be overly tight, pulling that pelvic tilt into position that just doesn't allow them to move or to function all that well. But you are correct. We do want stronger and more pliable hamstrings. So with every anterior movement pattern that we do, like a set of sit-to-stands, we would want to pair that with a really solid RDL or bridges or something else that's going to target our hamstrings and our glutes.
Yeah, she says,
Good
got
question.
it. So folks can go downstairs, for example.
Absolutely.
Did you want to address, when I was thinking of Linda and her knees in that thing with address the whole knees over toes.
Yeah, I think we could talk about knees over toes another time. I would say that the knees over toes research is decent. I think he's got really good points. I think his dragging backwards walking research is exceptionally sound. That's really, really good research, and that's good practice. The other stuff takes greater explanation, more that you would have to get into, to where it would be valuable for some and not so valuable for others. And just like the jumping, like barefoot running, like anything else, if you just go too deep into it too quick, it's going to cause more harm than good. But I am finding that, like, quote unquote, bulletproofing your knees with a little more quad dominance and knee drift to be very valuable. So I do think that he's onto something that just can be done
With light load.
Yeah, with lighter load, with progression that's not targeted at, 23-year-old athletes is basically his demographic that he's shooting for. The knees over toes guy, I forget his name, but he was just on one of the, it was either Huberman or Play More Dates. It was Israel. Yeah, you're right. And it was fine. I'm not a huge fan, but I'm not a hater either. I think it's good. His reverse walking stuff's awesome. And that treadmill, I love it. I love that whole thing. All right, Karen. Karen sent in two. The first one just said, I have a client with bilateral neuropathy in both feet and hands, very unstable, difficult to hold dumbbells. Any suggestions? That was literally her 3 lines. And then a day later, I got the rest of it, where she says, maybe I should have given you a little bit more. And really, I don't need any more. This is fine. I could go further into that, but our time is getting close here. So let me showcase this. The more use, the better. Don't stop with the hands and the feet. And the more dexterous stuff that you do, the better the individual is going to be. With neuropathy in both the feet and the hands, this is a battle of quote unquote good and evil. Like basically the diabetes or whatever else, smoking, whatever else has caused this, is continuing to attack the nerves in the distal ends of the hands and the feet, causing your body to not be able to receive the signal back of feeling and sensation. But they can still manipulate, at least in the beginning, they can still manipulate their hands and their feet, their toes and their fingers, but they have to continue to do stuff at a rather large and extensive rate, or else the progression of neuropathy can be really, really bad. So you want to use a lot. And that's where some of these tools, it's great to have them, but the ones in the middle, the hooks, if you literally just let the hook do all the work, then your hands, you could let go and it would still stay right there. You still got to do some work. So that's where I like the Angle 90 handles are really the best one for this, because they fill the hand in the middle. They're fatter in the middle and they're narrow on the ends. So people with arthritis or with neuropathy, their hand can grip and fill up, but then still wrap around it. And you can apply it to bands, dumbbells, kettlebells, for bent over rows, for swings. We use them on pretty much anything except pressing is really the only place you can't utilize them. The ones all the way on the right, those are Mike Israetel's Versa Grips. And basically it's similar to the wrist wrap in the middle. And then like an Olympic athlete that spins around the bars and such, they have those little straps that go on the inside of their hand and they can wrap it around and it just helps them with their grip. It's kind of a combo of those two. And these work really well, but as soon as you let go, it's letting go. You're not connected to it. So it'll give you support, but at the same time, you still have to hang on to it. And I would say 60% effort if I had to put a number on it. It might be more or less, but it's not a full 100%. And that could be really helpful in still holding on to things, still getting work, but not just giving up on this and being we're just going to strap weights to your forearms, and have you do your hinges. Now, if you want to do really heavy RDLs or a heavy swing or shrugs or something along those lines, these hooks in the middle, they're a little bulky, but we use those for heavy load, and we'll strap those on and let our clients I don't have to worry about grip. I just want to pull. Then do that. And then on everything else, okay, let's go grip strength. I think the Versa Grip, the one all the way on the right, is probably going to be your best bang for your buck there to assist in that. Outside of that, Do not stop. The rubber bands around the fingers doing the little talking hands, right? You put your rubber bands on, like any rubber bands, but like Iron Mind, a couple other companies make them where they go right around your hands and you can just do the little talking hands. I think mine are in the closet. But yeah, you do these little guys. All of that works. All the musculature on the outside of the hand, the little grippers, the putty, anything where they're like digging their fingers in and articulating, and little detailed stuff like screws. We had a board in the wall where it was just screws that they had to screw in and unscrew and then go to the next fingers, screw them in and unscrew, and then the next one, screw them in. And they would have to try to do it with all their fingers all the way down and back. Bigger bolts, little bolts, etc. Okay, all that good stuff. Dana, we got you, buddy. Thank you for being here. All right, that gives some good direction on that. And I think that was my last one. 10 minutes over. Yep, that we had pre-prepared. All right, let's turn and burn through a couple more. Parkinson's, here's our first one. This is from Charlene. And I don't know if this qualifies. You're looking for a program. Okay, a client who I've trained for 12 years. He's now 81 and diagnosed with Parkinson's 6 years ago. He's done pretty good up to this point in the past few months. We're learning together. He's getting worse. I often feel like this is beyond my expertise and I need to be with a physical therapist or an occupational therapist. At some point, as hard as it is, I feel they are going to progress beyond my abilities and we need to be comfortable in saying basically when enough is enough. How would you address this, et cetera? What's that? Okay. So when I stumbled across this research and my brain started going with it and I went, okay, what if this, and this? And as I continued to research it, it turned out a lot of it to be rather sound and connecting. I have a friend of mine who his son has Tourette syndrome. And he goes, what do you know about this? And like, what could I do from my professional standpoint to help my son with his Tourette's? So I started to research this. And what they found with Tourette syndrome is if you have someone with Tourette's, and it's not always just uncontrolled cursing, it's tics and twitches and little verbal things, body things that they just can't control, right? What they did was 3 6 to 8 long minute bouts of high intensity effort throughout the day brought their symptomatic responses down to like 20%. So it had an 80% effective reduction in any of their tics. So first thing in the morning, they like get up, put them on the skier, 20 on, 10 off, 20 on, 10 off, like 8, 9, 10 times through it, like 5, 6 minutes, just gas them, right? And then go to your day. Their tics would be nullified up to 80%. Noon, everything starts to come back again. Cool, let's do vertical tosses and dynamic high pulls. And they would just do that back and forth, 8 minutes of work. Gassed, let them go on about their day, everything would nullify. Before bedtime, they go in and air bike, sprint, recover. They could sleep without having their tics as a issue as they went up. They would wake up, they would have everything kind of elevated again and repeat. So these bouts basically tax, they've got to be high intensity, short windows, and really they got to go hard because it's got to tax their nervous system to the point where it's not so heightened and that it's like, oh dude, I'm exhausted. I don't have enough energy to make you do all your tics. And so that research found its way into the Parkinson's world, knowing that their tremors, their shakes, etc. When individuals would start to experience those, they would go, get on the bike and give me an air sprint. And they would do it and their tremors would retract. So that's something that we've been kind of looking at is, I only have one client with Parkinson's, but with him, anytime like his therapist, he has these things he does where he has to throw his hands out really fast and do these reactive drills. And it's kind of doing that same thing. It's like something fast and explosive and reactive, but we can actually do it in here. So throughout the workout, he knows this and he'll look at me and be like, let me go do the ski erg, and he'll get on the ski erg, or he'll slam a slam bell, or he'll do something that's just gassing, and then things will kind of mellow out for him. So that could be something to address. I don't think that if you're feeling internally, this isn't within my practice anymore, my safe practice anymore, then by all means refer out. But I don't think you should stop. I mean, as long as he's still capable of doing stuff, I think it would only help to keep doing what you do with the occupational therapist or the physical therapist, and just all of you communicate and be like, okay, I'm going to do, these exercises and make sure he does this stuff safely. And then the therapist, you guys can all work on your things, maybe try some of this higher intensity stuff. Like, I think this is, I don't know, there's 100 and something different variations of Parkinson's. Everybody's different mixtures of drugs actually work for them. So who knows what variation or combo or mix of exercise could work with this person. But I don't think by stopping working with you would benefit at all. Might just need different direction or better direction on what to do and what not to do.
Do you have that study that we can send the link out to?
Well, I have the one on the Tourette's, and then I have,
That's the one that was-
yes, yeah. So I can find that. I'll get that one out. If you
go
make a
out.
note,
I got
yeah,
it.
let's put it with the PDFs. Yeah, I'll send that out. That's good thinking. All right, any questions on that one? Okay. A couple people dropping off, no problem. Appreciate you all being here.
I do have a question. It's a brief one from a woman that's on here
Yeah, go ahead.
about kind of one of these about her.
Okay.
Yeah, she just said she has a client, 71 female, fused ankle, can't get the heel down or flex the foot properly for split squats or squats. So the ankle is fused and can't get the heel down. And this is from Sarah.
Okay, so Sarah, a couple of things that you can do. Because the ankle's fused, what you don't want to do is neglect the big toe, because that's pretty much all the pliability she has left to help her walk efficiently. So you want to do high plantar flexed exercises as high as she can handle via toe flexibility, not the ankle moving. So ways to modify with that is either with a wedge or a ramp. But what I like to do the most is with a sandbag, and you push the sandbag into the corner of the room. So it kind of creates like a squishy ramp or a wedge. And then you can kind of plant your foot into that and still get some high toe break, but the ankle's still propped at like a 45-degree angle. So we're basically taking all that ankle flexion out of it. If there's ankles kind of stuck at 90, let's pre-tilt it to 45. Let the big toe do the work down below, and the ankle can kind of stay here and just manipulate a little bit via the knee and the big toe. That, or you suspend that back foot. You put that back foot up on a roller, like on a quad extension machine, you put it up on the roller, or you put it up on a bench or a box, and you just suspend it. You get it out of things entirely. And that's where those rollers are nice. You can buy a roller to just hook onto the side of the squat rack. You just slide it in and then hook a pin in it, and it'll just stay there. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like the rollers that go on each side of the quad extension machine. It goes on your shins and you kick extended out in front of you. So like that, you get one of those. It's just a single pad, and you just hook it into the side of the squat rack, and then they can just hook their foot over the top. So envision like a foam roller on top of this, okay? And I were able to hook my foot over. The foam roller goes right through the center. My ankle's still at 90. So if I have that support there, when I go down into my split squat, my ankle has support around, and you'll hear it like, it just rolls right with the pad. And now you can keep your split squat value of the front leg and the rear hip flexor and the glute, everything except for the toe break on the back leg, which you would probably want to still do something for that big toe.
Is putting a foam roller on a box that's like that unsafe?
Unsafe and really uncomfortable. Yeah.
Because I was thinking
for sure.
like using that as the thing if she didn't have.
Yeah, I mean, to mock, like demo it real quick, fine, but I wouldn't want to do that on a regular basis.
This
You
is
want a
why I'm
pad.
not the trainer.
Yeah, you want the pad. You want all that on there. Deal with the pain. It's just a hard pad shoved into your shin.
You can put a towel on top. Some of the foam rollers are squishy.
They are squishy. That's true.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that though. That's still, if it rolls off and she
That's
loses
what I
her
was
balance.
thinking, the
yeah,
danger
something like
thing.
that.
I'm comfortable, whatever.
Discomfort. Deal with it. All right. All right. Hopefully that gave you some direction there.
She said maybe a half roller.
Maybe
If it
they're
got
still
their
really
thing high
hard.
enough.
Yeah, they're flat. I mean, you
Like
you
if it
could.
got the high enough
You
to
could.
hook the toe.
These pad rollers that hook onto the rack, like if you have a rack, right, that you get to hook into, whatever it is, if it's a Monster Light or a full rig or whatever it is, the 3/4 inch or a 1/4 inch or the full, whatever it is, just buy one like $35 and now you've got it and it's super comfortable to use. If you don't have a rack to utilize, then maybe look at this as something to go with. You can always hang their foot in the TRX
I was
too,
just
but
gonna say that.
then the TRX is all over the place.
It's a whole nother level.
A whole nother level for sure. Like it's nice to just
Suffer.
put it on something and have it stay secured there. Aren't you glad that I'm the coach here and not
She could use a sandbag. As I said, she doesn't have a rack, but she could use the sandbag.
don't have a rack, but we'll use the, what'd you say there?
Sandbag.
We'll use a sandbag.
You
okay.
they could also make single leg squat stands. They do have, that's from Chris was sharing that.
Oh yeah, they do. They do have one of those. Yeah. Perform Better has it. A couple other companies. It's like a low hurdle with a foam pad in the middle. It's two little triangles that hold on the side and the pad right down the middle. Good call, Chris. Yeah, that's true. They're a little pricey, but they have them. They are good and they're really comfortable. All right. We got 11 more minutes. Let me get as many of these in here as we can. All right, this is from Kim. Kim has a 92-year-old client, lives independently with her 92-year-old lives independently with her 92-year-old husband, who is typically in the other room playing classical piano when we train. She prepares all their super healthy food, bakes sourdough bread each week, and pays all their bills. Such an inspiration. She also is the mother of 6 kids. Holy cow. Less than 100 pounds and getting frail. 18 months ago, she tripped on the stairs and ended up with a hip replacement. I was called in to help her regain strength and hopefully prevent more falls. How old is she? 92. Okay, we train 2 times a week, mostly in the kitchen or on her staircase. I often bring in my massage table to help her work with mobility there. We've taken outdoor walks, a half a mile on the loop, makes me nervous. Step patterns. Okay, her gait is getting shorter. Tippy toe version. She sees other sessions and the gait continue to default toes. Okay, man. Besides resistance training with kettlebells, bands, SMOVI rings. I don't know what that is. SMOVI rings, etc. I need to get some new and effective other ideas. Note, she has stumbled and caused herself a few times while at home and does not walk long distances at the mall with her grandkids, for example. Her legs get very sore and tired. Replacement hip continues to get sore as well. All right, so the fall component, if she's capable of walking, she's taking half-mile walks. Remember the drill that I had everybody doing where they step forward, push back, step forward, push back? That's a SMOVI ring?
Yeah, weighted.
Oh, they're weighted rings. Okay, that's cool. Is that guy like breakdancing with it?
That looks like what he's doing.
Wow, that's something. Okay, let's not do that move. So
they have balls in
loaded,
them.
however you want to. They have weighted balls in them.
Yeah.
Gotcha, and they move. Okay,
Yeah.
I see. Cool. Kind of like, what were those ones with the
poles
poles?
things? Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so step forward, push back, step forward, push back with load, forward steps, pushing off the heels, driving back to standing, lateral step outs, and then reverse step backs. So they're not really lunges in any directions. They're literally just step outs. We call them gate steps. And then we say work the triangle. So you're forward for 5, lateral for 5, reverse for 5, switch legs and do it the other way, all while holding weight. This works really well in increasing gait, increasing the eccentric control, the concentric return, and then getting back to balance in the middle every time they have to step. So it's a really good complex to do as a warm-up. But then as you start the workout, like do whatever you're going to do, rows and push and squat and this, and like do your stuff, and then go, okay, let's do this as active recovery. And you're like, all you're doing is taking steps, hold on to these 2 8.5-pound dumbbells, 10s, whatever you got, right? And she can step, return, do that a minute, whatever it takes, and then do another lap of all your lifts and then do it again. And get like 2 or 3 rounds of that in every workout. That would be really good. The healthy toe break is going to be a really good value for her as well, and in helping her get her toes up so she doesn't stumble. We talked about the very beginning, like why people fall. It's because they start dragging their toes. Their dorsiflexors don't work really well. So with every plantar flexion you do, have them do some dorsiflexors, some tib activated toe lifts. I think that would help as well. The sit to stand is money. Again, you're only going to have really good value in return from that one. And I think that should give you some pretty good things to work on right there with her. The mini band around the knees, doing sit to stands, doing lateral slides, all that should help the hips, but keep the band relatively light. At 92, there's not a ton of musculature left around the hip, and more than likely she has osteoporosis in the hip socket. So we don't want to put so much pressure on there we start prying the hip out. You want to just put enough on there to give her some stress and some muscular engagement that helps secure that hip in. I wouldn't put it past it because the hip's kind of fragile and loose and not very strong is why she's such a fall risk. So if you just get her hip stronger, I think you'll see a lot of improvements with a lot of the other limitations that she might have. But it's cool that she gets to work out to some nice classical music. That's very cool. All right, Karen.
She's on.
This is awesome. She says, oh, thank you, Karen. I have, well, hopefully you sent that before. Hopefully we haven't disappointed you. I have a 76-year-old female client who's doing strength training for the first time. She swims several times a week, and we began strength training 2 months ago, 2 times a week. She's making great progress, feeling strong, and more confident in her training. We are training in her home. So I bring equipment, usually weights, resistant bands, handles, mini bands as well. I also have a kettlebell, a BOSU, a TRX. We haven't progressed those yet, but very enthusiastic, and we'll try to do this. As limitations go, her right knee bothers her, doing squats and lunges. Didn't we? I think we did this one.
Did you do
January, no. Okay, I guess not. She does take a long time to get up if I bring her all the way up down to the floor, but she can do it. Okay, love to see the mock workout. So I think it was the second one we did where we talked about how to get up and down off the floor. The gait component. Will you show me that one more time? What was that middle part that I missed?
She said you did cover a lot of this.
Okay. The middle part, bringing the equipment. You talked about the TRX. I would get a support stick, get some hiking sticks. I think that would help her a lot. 2 times a week, awesome. What would really help too is give her homework. Give her, we do, Keegan's got a laminator, and so I make little workouts, I print them out, and then she laminates it, and we give it to our client. We're like, take this home, do this on the days that you don't see me. So, and don't ever do bridges and mobilities in bed. They need to get up, they need to start moving around. If you're confident with her getting down to the floor and doing some stuff and getting up, I'm just like, get right next to the couch, get down onto the floor, do your bridges, do your bird dogs, do whatever I want you to do. And once they're down there, I just have them get up and down once. Get down, I'll have them do like 20 bridges and then roll to their side and do open books, and other side open books. And then I'll have them do inverted plank. Look that one up if you don't know that one. And then I'll have them do all those again. And then I'm like, okay, now get up. And they can kind of put their hands on the couch, get back up. We got up and down once, which is good practice, good confidence for their mind too. But you got some homework on them. And now put on the mini band and let's go up and down the hallway with lateral walks. If they have an anchor with bands, let her do some face pulls, right? Something like that. And then that gait step series, the forward, the side, the backwards, go through that and just be like, take 10, 12 minutes every morning and do this as like your regular homework. And if we can do that daily, right? None of that's really loaded, a little bit of band work, but none of it's loaded to where she's going to be sore or need a lot of time to recover. It's going to help her throughout the day because it's going to fire the nervous system, get all those muscles going. And the consistency of it daily is really going to help with foot contacts, posture, all of this, just constant a little bit every day. So then when the days when you come, we can like really level this up because she's already doing like the mobilities every day, the warm up every day. And so you can start to level up your stuff and get into those TRXs, get into the Bosu ball, that kind of stuff. Unstable people on unstable objects cause catastrophic injury. So I wouldn't have her on the Bosu ball for anything, but have her like step onto the Bosu ball and push back. That kind of thing can help with stability, but not standing up on it. At this point, I wouldn't do that. But I think that should give you some good insight, some good directions on which way to go. I think we got time for one more.
Yeah, how about this one? She emailed just beforehand, but I was trying to find somebody who was on that would, Chris is still on. Chris, I didn't see you.
Which Chris? Not my Chris. Is it my Chris?
Who's your Chris?
My Chris from Virginia.
Let me keep going.
I think he's on here. I'm pretty sure I saw him. Is it my Chris?
Dude, where did it go? It's a long page. It's this one right here. Oh no, that was Scott. That's what I was
Chris
thinking
come
of.
up already? We got
No, I was thinking of Scott.
Chris
Scott's already.
Myrick. There he is. Yeah. Is that it, Chris?
Yes, but I thought
Okay, throw it at me.
No. It wasn't him. It was Scott. I got confused.
Chris and I are boys. We go way back.
No, let's get this right here. Okay.
What do you got?
Because she's on. Let me hit it. Cece emailed right beforehand. 68-year-old woman.
68-year-old female.
Drop foot from complications or botched hip replacement 10 years ago.
Ooh.
Yeah, uses cane, walker in public spaces. Goals are strength and mobility. And she says, sorry, she's down in Ventura County.
Okay.
And she has intermittent power, so.
67?
She's on, so let's catch her where we get it. 68.
68. Botched hip replacement 10 years ago, now has drop foot. Shit.
I know. I'm actually on because I charged in my car, but I don't have power right now. Sorry.
Okay. Look at you being committed and getting on here.
know.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's why I wanted to make
What
sure
else am I going to do? What else am I'm actually a captive audience. So there you go.
Nice. Oh, very good. Well, this is a tough one because she can only do, when you look at neurological stuff like this, like there's not a whole lot that we can do on our end to really improve why the toe is dropping. You can build musculature and work on neuromuscular patterning and reactive type 2 fiber drills. Like we can do all of that kind of stuff. But the hard part is if there's a neurological diminished return due to whatever they botched in the hip surgery, are we going to be able to overcome that is my point. Like what happened here? Did they nick a nerve? Did they have to reposition a nerve that runs down the leg during the hip surgery that now it's just not going to function? Like whatever, on a puppet, if you just cut one of the strings to the leg, no matter what we do, the leg's not going to lift up, right? Like that kind of a thing is my concern. Like if it hasn't improved in 10 years, you're going to just try to keep doing the best you can with what you got.
Okay, well, she warms my heart because she wants to do something and she has exhausted physical therapy. She says they don't help her. It's outside my scope, but I say to her, I'll help you get stronger. We do a lot of upper body. She can do box squats, but she cannot put weight on that leg. And so I didn't know if there was some magic thing that I could do for her. A lot of balance with, like a tandem balance on a little balance beam, just holding the position. But I didn't know if you had any words of wisdom.
At this point, if she's utilized her physical therapy and all that, no one else is going to help her. I don't think you're outside your scope of practice. I think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing at this point, is helping someone who's weak get stronger, and it's per their request. So I think you're good on that end. And I would just try to continue to do everything you can to get her as strong as possible with whatever functioning bit she has. I know that doesn't help. I'll give you some specifics, but keep going. And just because this might be a battle that like we're not going to win and like get her back to full function due to this, it doesn't mean stop. It just means like we're just going to have to find some other ways to go at this and do the best we can with what she's got. Dorsiflexors, high marches are ones that I feel like might be something that you could work on right away. Either a super light band around her feet while she marches in place, or ankle weights on while she walks around can be another way to do this, where you're not really moving her up and down, you're moving her feet up and down. And so that's going to work the hip flexors, it's going to work the iliacus and the psoas muscle, it's going to work the quadratus laborum in the hip. Like, it's going to address a lot of those musculatures that you can't really get because she's not recruiting them when you do the sit to stands. We can kind of get that another way by doing those loaded marches. So ankle weights, 2 pounds, 1 pound, 2 pounds around the ankles, and then marching in place, even if she hangs on to sticks and then marches her feet as best she can. Forward steps, lateral steps, backward steps, knee up and hold, have her hold it for as long as she can, like active insufficiency type drills. When she's seated, have her lift her knee up to her chest, and then the other foot, lift her knee up, as high as she can. Just start working on getting the hip to recruit in odd angles and see if you can't get some kind of breakthrough with that. The mini band will be above the knee and work in, lateral raise out to the side, lateral steps. Have that on when you are doing your sit to stands. So even if she's not putting weight on the leg, at least the abductors will be on when she is doing sit to stands. Try deloading her with a band that's up and in front of her. So when she goes to stand up, the band is pulling her up and forward, and then she can sit down and away and the band will pull her up and forward again. So it'll help her through the sticking point, basically.
She does great sit stands on the 24-inch box, even with the kettlebell. Yeah, but she is putting it all on one leg, and I'm just worried, am I doing more harm by getting her more out of balance? That's what I get scared of. I don't want to talk to her about it, and I'm trying to equalize her, but I don't want to do harm.
Well, the reality is this is her life. Like, this is what she's got.
It's how she's going to live,
Like, how does she get off the toilet? She sits over to one side and gets up heavy on that one leg. Yeah. So it's like, if you were here and you're like, we're only training your left leg today, but both legs worked, then you'd be doing a disservice because then you'd be separating the gap, right? But it's like, she's already starting at a lower level. Let's just try to get both of them to go up. You're always going to have that differential. But if we can get both to improve, then we're winning. But that differential set, like, that's not something that, unless somebody missed something, some other doctor or therapist missed something, you've got to do the best you can with what's in front of you and just train her like she's an even normal balanced person that just has weak hips, and be like, let's just do what we can, man. Just get after it. I think it's only going to help. Absolutely. These are the cases where it's like, you want to help improve somebody's quality of life and no one else is willing to do it. Let's just try some different shit and see what works. And you're not doing it in a dangerous way. I'm just saying, like, you got to find another way to get this thing to fire and get it to move and help improve her by 10%. It could be drastic to keep her on her feet for another decade. You know what I mean? Something like that. Like, this can really go a long ways. I wouldn't stop anything. I would just try to implement some of these and try to find some other avenues of overload, and a good overload, that could really help her as best you can. I'd love to see video of her moving. If you want to, like, instant message me, send me some videos, and I'll try to give you some feedback too, because we create all kinds of cool stuff. And if you've got stuff to set up, we can work on that.
Okay. Couple more things, because
Yeah, fire away.
I promise. I promise.
No problem.
I'm
I'm
giving
good.
away your time.
I'm not going anywhere. So as long as people want to be on here,
This
I'm
is
happy.
Scott.
We
He's
still
on.
got 25
I'm
people
trying to
here.
find
I'm
him on
impressed.
here, but I finally found him. So
Okay.
Scott, but wait,
don't
before
need
you
to-
dive into Scott's, because his looks like it's involved a little bit. We had a question on the study for benefits of men with the sit stands.
Yes.
Will you be able to find that? We can link that too.
Yes.
Okay, and then
Yeah. It's the urinary tract sit to stand test. Yep.
okay, so add that. So then we also had a question here, a quick question. So to go on this about the Harrington rods, I believe this is what
Yep.
Leslie had.
Yep.
So questions on how you would interact with somebody just in general, like that has these Harrington rods.
Those rods,
what
the
this
Harrington rods, these are rods basically that look like really thick piano wire. It's a whole bunch of piano wires all stuffed together to make one giant rod. And then they run that up the facet joints of the vertebrae all the way up. So it's got a guideline. This is usually when either someone was in a severe car accident or they had scoliosis and they've like literally broken every vertebrae back into position. And to keep it there, they put these rods in to keep them, but they are like locked in and they've got some pliability, but not much. It's like as much as the rods can kind of bend and move, it's a little bit, but not much. But it's way better than what they had. Like scoliosis can get so bad to some people they can't move, they start to lose their legs, etc. So basically, you don't treat them any different than you would anyone else that's just got like an overly stiff lower back. In that, let's keep hinging properly, but let's not overarch our back when we do this. Let's work on, decent bridges, which they should wheelbarrow up and down because they don't have any pliability in their hips. So that should work well. The split stance variations, if they need some assistance, give it to them, but let's work as deep a good range of motion as they can. And the stiffness is not going to be helpable. Like that's not something you can improve. We're not going to get them to do child's pose and downward dogs and all that because the metal in there is designed to not let that happen. So just try to work with them in the best ranges that they are capable of, get them as strong as they can, keep those bones as dense as possible, still row, still push, still press, do everything that they can. And just knowing like, we're not going to really hurt their back, but you can over abuse everything else around it because that thing's locked in. It's like pretend their back is just stainless steel and it's locked. Well, for them to do a whole bunch of hinges, it's over abusing the hamstrings. So don't over volume would be my other advice and just have them work as efficiently, as effectively as they can within 3 sets of 12, like whatever your fixed volume is. Cool?
So that's Scott's.
All right, here's Scott.
He's hanging in there for us.
Nice. All right. Hope you and the family. Oh, from Canada, eh? Nice. 62-year-old female, active, but not a lot of exercise strength training. Has congenital conditions called Klippel-Fell syndrome. I'm sure I butchered that. Where several of her cervical and upper thoracic vertebrae are fused from birth. Wow. And this also includes some degree of scoliosis. She remains active playing recreational volleyball and pickleball without too many issues. Cool. She's been experiencing lower backside pain for over a year now that affects everything she does and has been to the physiotherapist, including dry needling, acupuncture, chiropractor twice, massage, cortisone shots, SI joint, as well as L4 facet, and recently a piriformis and glute injections. Wow. This seems to be,
covered it all.
it seems to help slightly when injected intramuscularly. However, most, if not all, the other treatments have been unsuccessful to this point. There's not a definite diagnosis of the specifics surrounding her back pain, but it's safe to say that her anatomy is compromised, and not surprising, it is causing her more issues as she ages. Wow. Limited range of motion, cervical spine, T-spine, it goes on.
Scott.
There's 4 more pages. Neck problems. We're looking for fresh ideas on how to improve her core and her glute strength without jacking up her neck. Okay. Well, I'm assuming that hinging components are definitely aggravating. If she does okay on her back, the inverted plank was one of my favorite therapies. So envision you're laying on your back. Do you want a demo?
No, so you can show it real quick.
Okay. The inverted plank on the floor is done fine. Elevated is even better.
You've got a slight bend in the knees, dorsiflex the toes, arms can go wherever, and then you lift your butt up. You can't see with my shirt, but my butt's like an inch off the ground. And then I just hold my toes vertical, everything's nice and straight, and it's like I'm planking, but I'm inverted, I'm supine. And so I relax, I put my butt down, I rest, and then I re-engage and I lift up. This gets your gastroc, your hamstrings, your glutes, all your erectors. It just smokes everything. Now, is it moving a lot of range of motion? Is it going to tear fibers and get you more hypertrophy? No. But is it going to get them strong? Yeah. Isometrics will do some good binding strength that will assist, right? Now, if I put my feet up onto a box, I can like lever up higher, right? My legs would be straight up on a box. Always a little bend in the knee. That could give some pretty good value there. I think that, along with like a band around the knees in your quadruped with some kickback variations, could try to get some more glutes there while you're in that like neutral spine quadruped position. The band around the knees is going to get the glutes to fire when you're doing any of your lateral steps, forward backs, any amount of sit to stands that you can do. This is a tough one because you've got, this is going to be like, what can we tolerate, right? Like, what can we tolerate? Let's try some new things, see what you can tolerate. The neck, so the stemming process neurologically from the lower back up to the neck, there's another variation of either a disease or an issue where the more you stress your lower back, the more occipital stress is placed and the more like tension headaches people will get. And so we don't want to encourage anything like that to start to come about because we have so many issues back here already. It's like, where can we get best bang for our buck with some of these efforts? I think that inverted plank could be a really good one to do. Try to develop your abductor strength as much as you can with the mini bands on, and then continue to do your like fairly heavy focused posterior work, rows, pullovers, high pulls. If you can do cable reverse flies, so she's not having to hinge over, but she can still work on like posterior delt, rhomboid, levator, your retract, all of your retractors. That posterior chain, the stronger it gets, the longer it's going to last. So I think that's all probably good directions. And then I hate to just sit and like harp on the sit to stand, but it's just such a good, actionable lift. If she can't handle holding a lot of load, maybe putting a vest on her, or belt squats from there could be really beneficial too, and assist. The belt squat is awesome. Anybody with lower back or any back issues, when the belt is stressed around the iliac crest at the top of the hip and pulls down through the center just over the pubis, like it really reduces the amount of stress on the lumbar by 90%. So you'll feel valsalvic pressure on your spine just from breathing against the belt. But other than that, there really isn't a lot there. So that could be a way to keep her hips and her glutes and her quads strong, but not have any kind of vertical pressure placed on her spine if that's something that alerts or alarms her to, aggravates her as well. Yeah, you got a lot of moving parts here. This is a tough one, but very similar to our previous client. You continue to be unique in your approach and try to find some things that work for this person and help them stay as strong and as muscularly dense as long as they can. And it'll hopefully improve their quality of life.
What do you recommend for the belts?
Well, I'm a bit of a belt snob, okay? So you could get a $15 belt off of Amazon and it would probably be just fine. But I really like the eccentric belts from the company Eccentric. It's EXXENTRIC. And the reason for that is they're very, very pliable and comfortable around the hips. They are padded through here. But this is my favorite feature, is how easy they just seat belt. You can hear that? They just seatbelt click on, and then you cinch this guy up, and it's just like a seatbelt, and then you're golden, you're good to go. And here's your little center belt that carabiner clicks in, and you're good. Yeah, Keeg just put it up there. And I would get the Eccentric lifting blocks to go with it, because most people, when they're clipped into a belt, the weight hangs a little bit lower than their range of motion. So if you get these guys too, I think they're $40 or $50. These are 2-inch blocks. You stand up on these, and the kettlebell or the T-bell, whatever you're belt squatting, goes right down the middle of these. This will give you some higher ranges of motion that you can address there. I don't know if I gave you a ton on that one, Scott, but hopefully I gave you something. If she's playing volleyball and pickleball and moving in all those directions, should be able to do the majority of that stuff we just talked about.
Do you think because of the pickleball and that kind of thing, that's why in the last year she's seen the increase in that one-sided back pain?
Probably.
Because that's one-sided hitting of the hand? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, you look at
if she's planting and she's...
Who's the tennis player we were talking about with the one arm? Guy who wears the bandana and the long hair? Nadal. Nadal's like right forearm looks like my calf.
Yeah. Sure, Scott, go
and
ahead.
the left forearm is normal.
Scott's unmuting for you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Hi, Robert. Good to hear from you and see you again, and Keegan as well. So our suspicion is that Christine, she's actually my wife. She's my client, but she's my wife.
Oh, nice.
There's more pressure than ever now. We suspect that when she was trying out some lawn bowling about a year and a half ago, because when lawn bowling or outdoor bowling basically on a carpet like on grass.
Canadian.
Lawn bowling.
Yeah, okay.
Never heard of that? Okay.
Haven't heard of that, no.
No, well, when we actually have summer up here, like it's grass, and when we do, but it's like bowling, but it's like it's like long and slow, and it's well, when you bowl, just think of bowling, and you're basically in a lunge. So if she's right-handed, left foot's forward all the time,
every single time. Yep.
A lot of hip, I don't know, asymmetry. I think that happens with that. Let me sum up.
Do you remember?
We suspect it happened from that. So
that's where it started?
We think.
Gotcha. Do you remember like way back in the early development of the NBA, like they would shoot between the knees with both hands. They would do like an underhand free throw. The original like design, the first person that ever did that, he shot that way because he had an imbalance that hurt him when he shot with one arm. He wanted to shoot with both arms. So they tried like doing a two-handed pass, and they were like, just do an underhand. And you got really consistent with it. And a lot of people did that. I think all the way up until like the 80s, some people shot underhand like that on their free throws. That would be the ideal way for you to bowl, because you'd just be right down the middle and you just throw with both hands. Everything would be nice and symmetric. You can't get spin. You can't get a good walk up, all that other stuff that goes into it. When we do asymmetric sports, pitching, javelin, hammer, discus, any of these where you're blocking one leg, you're following through the other, you're turning the same direction, you don't need to equal the effort on the other side and become an ambidextrous bowler, but you need to train the opposite sides when you're in the weight room to try to keep up with that asymmetry, or else it has a long-term effect that now you start to see. And we've seen it with people that are like grocery store clerks. Like they type all the buttons with this hand and they grab the item and scan with this hand. So they get arthritis in their hand and the wrist here, and they get like tennis elbow on this arm. And you're like, that's a direct result from doing that same movement over and over and over again. So that would be something that you might want to look at that and be like, if she's a left leg blocker, right arm throw, when she's lifting, she should have her right leg forward on everything. When she's doing a row, just a standing row, right foot forward. When she's doing curls, right foot forward. She's doing face pulls, right foot forward. Like put everything on that other foot to try to work that left leg block from the years of sport into a right leg block when she's resisting any kind of load to assist in equaling that symmetry up. And the same with, if you're always throwing right hand and underhand throws, maybe when you do your single arm pull starts, do an extra set or two on the left arm to try to eventually even some of those things out. You might even see it too, like Keegan, if you look at her traps, she's got one trap that's like that. And that's from her years of carrying her glove and having a left block arm and then the right arm doing the throwing and all the mobility. So she's always up and locked tight on this side and hypermobile on this side. And so a lot of times when we're rowing, it's like, dude, get your shoulders down and let's get some extra work on this other one to try to even her out a little bit. We did that really early on with her javelin throwing. We spotted it right away and we're like, we got to get you a little bit more balanced up in here. So unilateral training became a much better approach than bilateral lifting all the time, because you just default to your stronger side as soon as you start to get tired. But if you're unilaterally lifting, they've got to equal up. And you might right arm row with like 50 and you're like, this is easy. And the left arm's like, I can barely do this. Keep doing that until they're both like, this is easy. And then you can progress up. But that could take a long time.
Yeah,
It
she
just
doesn't
reminded me.
actively do that bowling anymore because she had to stop, and she enjoys pickleball a lot more, but it doesn't seem to aggravate things as much. But just every
Yeah.
day, just this lower back pain, they can't diagnose it specifically, which is very common. So it's just been more of a pain in the butt, so to
Literally.
What?
speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
What?
to try not to jack up that neck so much, we're trying to work on ways to improve her core strength. I don't know if you have any value in Pallof presses or anything like that.
Yeah, anti-rotation stuff's great for the core. And I'm not like a direct core training kind of guy. I don't like crunches, V-ups, sit-ups, leg lifts, all that stuff, all out the window. When someone's like, I really want to get a strong core, I'm like, what's your deadlift? How much can you swing? What's your inverted row? Like those are lifts that really make you lock down in your core. How much can you farmer carry or suitcase carry? All those things. If she starts to kind of level those up, and then she is going to have some favoritism in pickleball of which way she wants to move or manipulate her body, which hand she wants to be able to hit harder with, and all that. And that's all just a default from being a right-handed athlete, right? No fault to her own. It's just what she's dealing with. So maybe trying to train some more unilateral stuff inside the gym to help along with that. If she's going to continue to play sport, would maybe help. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say what I do notice about that generic back pain. This is probably one of those things you're going to say, Keegan, this is just you and has no application to anybody else. But
That's not true.
that, well, you never know. Wait till you hear it.
Always one other weirdo out there.
Is that when my quads are really tight from running, from doing these things that play sports and all that kind of thing, it pulls on that lower back and creates just a general back pain. And it's also one of those things where when I tweak my back on a lot of the things, because my feet aren't, the contact on the ground isn't uniform, I'm usually like turning it out to make more room for a kettlebell or something like that, and that ends up tweaking it. So
Gotcha.
it's like stretching out those quads like multiple times a day,
Yeah,
consistently.
your side lane quad stretch really did a lot for you, right?
And
Wasn't
that
the
one where
liked?
you go down, let me plug this in, I have to go get the kids here in a second.
Okay.
But that one where you go down like this, right?
Uh-huh.
And then pull this back one back. But for whatever reason,
That's a good one.
yeah, it hurts at the beginning, but it's way better. But once I loosened up here, it stopped pulling here. But that was like back pain that lasted every day continually
Yeah.
until this. And even if now it'll get tight. I'm not, like I said, it's probably one of
Yeah.
those things that's more generic.
No,
but
because it goes right back to, I don't remember who asked about it, but with the tighter quads and the vertical position and squatting and whatnot, your rectus femoris, all your quads insert on the patella. So you're going to have tightness in that quad at some point, but its origin is all the way up above the cross-sectional at the hip, of which your iliacus and your iliopsoas are going to cross over that. So you're going to have like tight quad pain is going to descend basically all the way down from L3, L4, L5. It's going to work all the way through the front of that hip, all the way down to your knee. People are just going to feel it in different places. So by working on your quadricep flexibility can loosen up stress in your back, just as much as loosening your hamstrings can help the pliability of the pelvis to tilt better, to loosen up stress in your back. Everybody's different. And that's a great stretch, a very good one. And that's really close to the world's greatest stretch or whatever it's called, where you put the other hand on the ground and rotate up. That's another really good one too. They can give you that front hip flexor, front glute, abdomen, et cetera. You kind of have all those mixed together.
when I
in
just
there.
hear like the continual back pain and like the one-sided, that's like, if you're not, contacting, like, I feel like mine does that too. Like it's always just that one side that if I tweak it.
Yeah, and I think that could be a muscular imbalance issue as well.
yeah.
So that bilateral approach would probably just, you have a fatigue component to a certain point, and eventually your quads are just going to be like, I can't keep up, or your glutes, I can't keep up. So your weaker glute looks to the stronger ones, like, you take over, you're the stronger one. And so now you're creating a bigger gap. Where if we go, let's stagger a foot forward and go until we fatigue, and then go the other way and stagger, you can find a way to seek these imbalances. And usually the first set is going to be the most resistant to fatigue. So if every time she puts her left foot forward, she's solid, put the right foot forward and always do that one first. And see if you can't get that like right glute, left QL, because your right foot's forward, those are your opposites are going to plant you there. If you get those all stronger by being the front plant leg, then maybe those balances start to come up and that back pain starts to relax a little bit. You find some seek
And
there.
every single time before
abductors
workout,
and such. Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah.
All right.
That
Great
sounds,
questions.
that sounds great. Thanks a lot, you guys.
My pleasure. I'm good to go till 3. We got 6 more minutes. Anybody else?
I know, anybody
We still got
else?
19 people on here. You're awesome. I'm just
know.
going to keep going until there's no one left. We got,
There were a few you didn't do
Yeah,
in there.
there were a couple
I
more
skipped
on
around
here.
to make sure you got people that were on.
is there anybody that's on here that sent in one? Not that we saw. Okay. All right, team. Well, maybe we'll call it there. That was a nice hour-long webinar. It went for 2 hours. I hope we got some good value from it. Let me know what y'all thought of this. Our first time doing it. If you liked it, if you feel like we got some good stuff out of it, then we'll do another one. Say it again. Oh yeah, with the breakout rooms. We were thinking about doing breakout rooms in 1 too, where we either pose a question or pose a limitation, let all of you kind of discuss, and then we come back and do something like this too. So yeah, let me know if these are all things that you're interested in, and we'll go through that. All right, looking at my comments here. Please do it again. Awesome. Glad you liked it. Anything else that we missed up on here? Oh, good. Heidi, you should have seen the other one I did for you, that first one on YouTube. It's 15 minutes or so. And then I'm going to hang on to your other one. Maybe we can use that next time when we go through it. Okay, good. Good. You saw it. Excellent. All right, team. There's Kate. Kate, another Canadian up there. We miss you, Kate. Yeah, I didn't see one from Kate either.
Did I not get it printed?
I don't know, unless it came in like right at the last second. Send again, Kate. We'll put it in the next one. Yep, we'll definitely do it again. This looks like it was positive and people really liked it. Okay, there we go. Awesome. All right, everybody, we'll let you go. Thank you for spending time with us. So I think we'll book this for at least 90 minutes next time, knowing that we've got a lot to talk about. So we appreciate you. Have a great day. Until next time, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. We'll see y'all then. Bye.